Jen, welcome.
Thank you.
So, could you tell people just a little bit about how things were before we started working together, and then a little bit about what changed?
Yeah, so it's been 3 years since I first worked with you. Yeah,
Wow.
surprising. So I've worked with Veronica twice. Um, the first time was, like Labor Day 3 years ago. Um,
God.
and I had never even told anyone I had a problem with alcohol. But I knew I did. And I don't even I heard you on a podcast. I don't even know where, but it was like, I call it like a little download from the universe. Like I was looking at your website for like a week and I just knew I needed to hit that book a discovery call button. Because I was like, I've got to do something about this, but I don't even know where to start. And so yeah, my life is so different, as you know, from where it was then to where it is today. And, doing all of this work with you has been the reason why. And also being part of sober communities and just really changing my life. I think when we first met, you told me I was a master presenter. I was so good at presenting to the world that I was fine. And I had seen numerous therapists over the years and always been told, oh, you seem fine. You seem like you're coping well. And I just was so good at,
That
presenting.
was your story, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it all comes back to childhood, and
Mm.
always presenting from a young age, I was fine and had it together and everything. So it was,
But how did you feel inside?
not okay. Yeah. And looking back now, I can see that my life was really lonely from a very early age. And I felt that there was just an incongruence with who I presented on the outside and how I felt on the inside.
Mm, mm.
And, because of that, I didn't let people get too close to me either. And so, I didn't have the best friendships. I was afraid of getting hurt. I look back and, I just, had a lot of stuff to look at and work through. And I've done that and life is so much better. So I guess I'll start with kind of my history of drinking is interesting
Mhm.
that I only drank a couple times in high school. But I would say alcohol never agreed with me. I think the second or third time I drank, I got blackout drunk, lost my virginity, and don't remember. And I think I threw up on him. We ended up dating for a year and a half, and he said it's still a good friend of my life. So that was okay. But it just never agreed with me. So I do think genetically it. And there's addiction all over my family. What was interesting is I drank in college some, and it would always be binge drinking, partying. I wouldn't say it was abnormal for college. It'd be a couple times a month, and so again, looking back, not great, but not super problematic. I was got good grades and stuff. But yeah, it was really after college that the drinking started to pick up and that behavior of, it was modeled to me through some different relationships and stuff of having wine after work to relax and unwind. And I didn't have any parental figures to help mentor me through that ever in life. But and where it really struggled was that transition from college to adulthood. And I was in a job that looking back was really toxic and isolating and not good. And so then I'm using alcohol to cope after work. And, it just on the outside, it never looked that problematic to people. No one ever commented on it. I was really, really good at hiding it. And over time, there'd be a few times a year, of too much partying and that kind of stuff. And there was a period in my late 20s of doing a lot of cocaine with a boyfriend. And then that just kind of went away on its own. So I figured the drinking thing would just kind of go away on its own. But I definitely wasn't outgrowing it. And what really changed is I am 38 now. So when I was 33, I was diagnosed with breast cancer and it was caught early. Luckily, it was my first preventative screenings ever. My mom died of well, she had breast cancer, and then when she was 40, and then she actually got leukemia from the chemo she did with breast cancer and died at age 45. So
Oh
because of that family history, I started my screenings early, and that's what caught it. And it was a very
my God.
nasty, aggressive kind of cancer that they were like, if you would have found this on your own, you wouldn't have lived.
Wow.
And yeah.
Can I just frame this? You knew that alcohol wasn't good for someone who has cancer, right?
Only a little bit, not really, not until I went
Wow.
through screenings and they gave me literature about it and
Huh.
studies. I didn't know how bad it is and how
Yeah.
heavily linked it is to cancer. No
Yeah.
one ever said anything,
Wow.
which is shocking, you know. And they gave me some literature and some New York Times articles, and that scared me. And then I get like the notification that I need to come in for a biopsy and everything. And I'm like, oh my God. So I don't know if alcohol gave me cancer or not. It doesn't really matter to me. Like, but I knew this was like not good. So luckily it was caught early and it was very treatable. And I did have to do chemo and radiation and just had a lumpectomy. So like in terms of cancer, yes, that was like crappy, but it was pretty minimal in terms of what cancer can look like. So I was
Yeah.
really lucky on
Yeah.
that side of it. And then afterwards, you know, I was like, get through treatment, all of that. And then after, and I was still drinking in periods, you know, going like, this is not great, but you know, and then I started doing a lot of like meditation and yin yoga and working out and getting healthier. And but the drinking was still sneaking in a few days a week. And so it's really incongruent at this point. It's like I'm doing all these healthy activities and then I'm like drinking a bunch of wine a few nights a week. And it was like hijacking is the only way I can describe it, like this mental hijacking. And yeah, so I think it was probably, yeah, about 9 months later, then after I finished treatments and all of that, that I reached out to you and started working with you. Um,
Mhm.
and I was just like, yeah, something's got to change here. And like, I didn't really know where to start, having had gone to therapy and different things. Like, I had a therapist once tell me to just buy like small bottles of wine to like minimize my drinking. You know, it's like, because I had kind of expressed some concerns about it a couple times. And it's like, yeah, no, that's not the answer.
And because you looked, I mean, you
Yeah,
know, you have a great job, you look great, you know, you don't drink every day, you're not drinking first thing in the morning, right? So
yeah.
everyone else is like, well, that's normal drinking.
Yeah, and they're just like, my friends would be like, oh, Jen likes to party sometimes and drink, you know, and stuff. And it just, yeah, even to this day, a lot of people that are still in my life from then are kind of like surprised by it. And I do even get comments of like, oh, yeah, you just kind of quit drinking. I wish it was that, you know, like I still presented that to a lot of people.
Mm.
And I still find the hardest people to really explain it to are the people who knew me drinking in the in and out. But going forward now in life, like I'm super honest about being a sober person and proud of that and like really clear and upfront about it and happy to talk about it. Um, yeah, so there was just like a lot of incongruencies there.
So
Yeah.
can I, so I know you, so Jen, you did lots of things. I know She Recovers has been really helpful for you. And we did Soberful Women together. Can you tell us why you joined the Sober Mindset? Like what was happening? Because I know you were really moving in the right direction, but
Yeah, I would say like first working with you in that women's group, about 80% of it was like cleared up. I was like, you totally opened my eyes to like, I had no idea that my childhood was not normal. All of this stuff was affecting me, you know, and into adulthood. And I had all these limiting beliefs and all this, like a lot of like programming that I needed to be caregiving and like even in like and I was hesitant about romantic relationships because of all of that and just family stuff. My sister is an addict and all sorts of stuff was going on. So about 80% of it I would say was like cleared up or like much better after that. And I joined She Recovers, which is like an amazing group of women. I live in Seattle, so it has a huge presence out here. And that would I'd say is like in terms of ongoing, the most like supportive thing. Because then I started meeting women that were just like me, that like on
Yes.
the outside,
Community,
yeah,
community,
yeah, that
community.
had
Yeah.
like, a lot of like their shit together looking like, and but then had this drinking problem, and then I've made amazing friends in there, and I started to like open up and share and feel safe. Like safe is a word that I think about a lot lately, because I didn't realize how like I never felt safe, like pretty much my entire life until recently.
It's
And
an anchored feeling, and that's what I was describing. I felt exactly this. It's just not feeling anchored, right?
yeah, and like there wasn't like emotional safety in my childhood and relationships until recently. And yeah, so then what happened was, even though I'd done all this work, I was still drinking a little bit here and there every few months. And I'll tell you, that is like the worst place to be. It is like hell, because you're physically not used to it. It's so out of alignment with what I want. And like, I really liked my sober life, but then yet I'm doing this every once in a while. And that was like really painful. And then I started dating somebody who also had a drinking problem. I have a history of that too, common, and I was much more on a sober path than him, but every like month and a half, I would start drinking with him for a day or two. And then there was a big blow up, and that ended. And I was listening to your podcast one day and heard you were enrolling in this 6-month sober mindset program. And I was like, well, I think that's for me. I need to do more work. And so it was really the romantic relationship stuff that was really, coming up, that I really needed to continue to work on with you. And that has been life changing. Like, I am now dating, and I was so hesitant to even do any dating and found it super scary and stuff. And now I don't at all. Like, I've met some great people, but they aren't in the position for relationships. And I'm just able to like accept that and choose if I want to have friendships with them or not. And then I can easily filter out all the nonsense. Um, and
Not accepting crumbs from the table.
no, absolutely not. And, I get so many compliments about, just my presence, and how, like people are really drawn to me now in a positive way, of just like, I'm really clear and calm and kind to people. And that shows up even in dating. And, I'm just very clear on what I'm looking for and what I want, because I have that feeling in my friendships. So like, I have these wonderful, trusting, great friendships. And so I know what I'm looking for. And I think you described it perfectly. Like, it's all about getting the rest of your life together and having the life you want. And a relationship is the cherry on top. And that's how I feel. Like, my life is really good. Like, there are things I'm still working on, like money, as you brought up, is one. That
There's always, all of us are
oh
always working on stuff. Nobody
yeah,
ever gets to, but the thing is, we can now, right?
yeah, absolutely. So, and it's like, I look back and I'm just like, oh my God, I was living in like drinking chaos, and like so painful. And it's like, my life is so peaceful and calm. And I have this like inner peace and happiness now that I've never felt or had before. And it's so nice and refreshing. And yeah, like life is pretty easy now, but it was, like you said in the beginning, making that adjustment. I call it like describing to people like having to rewire your brain. And I'm like, yeah, it is, it's challenging at first, and with how much you have like subconsciously programmed alcohol into your brain, but now I don't have thoughts about drinking. Every once in a while, a little thing will pop up and I'll just be like, oh, that's curious and interesting, like not doing that. But yeah, things are just so much more manageable now.
Thank you, Jen. Was there anything particular in the Sober Mindset program that really kind of was helped you change, or any
Yeah, I think
ahas? Or...
the resentments, especially section, and the one I always still repeat it to myself because you helped me unravel things that happened with Dan, the guy I was seeing. And, I chose somebody who could not meet my needs, and really reminding myself of that ongoing with dating is like, people can meet my needs or not, and accepting and seeing where people are at in reality. And if that works for me or not, and that's okay if they aren't there, and because I had a real bad habit and history of seeing the potential in people and, kind of like, the crumbs, like there would be a few good things and then ignoring all the stuff that wasn't working for me and stuff. So, and just being like really clear and kind with people and knowing what's mine and what's other people's stuff and not taking stuff personally, like, and being able to just really see things clearly as they are. And yeah, even this like programming, I was around my family a couple months ago and just listening to them like basically tell me I need to care give for people, and I'm like, no, I don't, no.
Yeah.
Not my problem. And stuff, and just seeing all that really clearly without like being emotionally attached to it. And it definitely takes time and practice, and there's still situations that come up once in a while that trigger those feelings, but for the most part, that program was super helpful, and the group aspect of it is really, really helpful to hear other people's stories and what's going on for them, and then how I was maybe doing some of that or whatever, is super helpful. Yeah. And now, like, I resented for a long time having to do any sort of like be in any kind of sober community, go to meetings. Like, I really didn't want anything to do with it, and was really kind of like, I don't know, bitter and shameful and stuff. And now I go to those things because I want to. It's so interesting. Like, I go to like refuge recovery meetings and my She Recovers meetups, and I go to your like alumni stuff, and it's because I like it. Like, I like hearing people's stories and being part of that community and world. So it's a huge shift. Yeah.
Brilliant. Jen, thank you so much. The way I've worked with Jen for about 3 years now, and I've seen what I see is like before you were like this, and now there is expansion and all things are possible. And I've seen a massive shift and change in you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if people, would you mind if people reached out to you through Soberful Life or whatever?
Oh, no, please. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Jen.